Hey everyone! So, you're about to step into a chemistry lab for the first time. I know, it can look a little intimidating with all that strange glass and metal equipment everywhere. But don't you worry, because today we're going to break down all the essentials. By the end of this, you'll be feeling way more confident and ready for that first experiment. So, imagine this. You've got your procedure, you've got your lab coat on, you're ready to go. But what do you actually grab first? Where do you even begin? Well, that's what we're going to walk through step by step. Okay, before we even think about touching a single piece of glassware, we have to talk about the most important thing in any lab, and that is safety. Seriously, this isn't just some boring list of rules. This is the foundation that makes all the cool science possible. These rules are pretty straightforward, but they're absolutely crucial. First, never ever stick your nose in a bottle and take a big whiff. You waft the scent towards you. Always read the labels, right? You gotta know what you're working with. And this one's big. Never pour extra chemicals back into the main bottle because that can contaminate the whole thing. And of course, the common sense stuff. Wash your hands when you're done and keep your food and drinks far, far away from the lab. Now, if you remember one single safety rule from today, please make it this one. Always add acid to water. If you do it the other way around, water to acid, it can cause a super violent reaction and splash concentrated acid everywhere. A really easy way to remember it is to think acid to water like A&W. It sounds silly, but that little trick could save you from a serious burn. All right, now that we've got the safety stuff down, we can actually start setting up our experiment. And the very first step is to build a stable structure to hold everything. And this guy right here is where it all starts. This is the ring stand. Yeah, I know, it looks simple, just a heavy base with a metal rod sticking out of it. But this is basically the backbone of your whole setup. It provides all the stability you need to make sure nothing tips over. So the ring stand's entire job is to hold and clamp your glassware so it doesn't fall or get knocked over. Just think of it like an extra set of really steady hands that never get tired. It frees you up to focus on the actual chemistry. With our stand ready to go, it's time for what is maybe the most critical part of any reaction, getting your measurements exactly right. First up, let's talk about how to measure solids. Weighing a solid is a super precise four-step deal. First, you put your container. In this case, we're using a watch glass, right on the balance. Step 2, you tare it. That just means you zero out the scale so it ignores the weight of the glass. Then you use a spatula to carefully add your solid. And finally, you just write down that final mass. Simple, clean, and perfectly accurate. And this is the magic tool that makes all that precision possible, the electronic balance. These things are incredibly sensitive. They can give you a super accurate measurement, often down to several decimal places, which is exactly what you need to get good, repeatable results. And here's a quick but really important point. A balance measures mass, not weight. Mass is the actual amount of stuff in an object, and that's the number that really matters for our chemical reactions. So, these two tools are a team. The spatula is what you'll use to carefully scoop and transfer your solid chemical, and you'll transfer it right onto the watch glass, which gives you a nice, clean surface for weighing. Okay, so that's solids. But what about liquids? Well, for measuring the volume of a liquid, your go-to tool is usually going to be one of these, a graduated cylinder. And as you can see, they come in all kinds of sizes, depending on how much liquid you actually need to measure. It's pretty self-explanatory, right? The little lines on the side, the graduations, are what let you measure out a very specific, precise volume of liquid for your experiment. Now, what if you need a tiny, very accurate amount of liquid? That's when you bring in the pipette. But, and I can't stress this enough, you never, ever, ever use your mouth for suction. Nope. Instead, you use this thing, a pipette bulb. It safely and controllably pulls the liquid right up into the pipette for you. Okay, we've set up our stand, we've carefully measured all of our ingredients. Now it's time for the really fun part, mixing them together to see what happens. You've definitely seen this one before, right? This is the beaker, and it's probably the most iconic piece of lab equipment out there. It's the perfect all-purpose container. You can use it to hold stuff, mix stuff, and even heat stuff up. It's a true lab workhorse. So how do you mix things up in that beaker? Well, you use this, a simple glass stirring rod. It's made of glass because glass is generally non-reactive, which means you can stir your chemicals without the rod itself getting involved in the reaction. Now, for smaller scale reactions, or maybe when you're running a whole bunch of tests at once, you're going to want to use these test tubes. They are perfect for holding and mixing just a small amount of liquid, letting you see the reaction up close. So a lot of chemical reactions involve heat, which means your glassware is going to get hot, and you obviously can't just pick it up with your bare hands. You need the right tool for the job. Check these out. These are beaker tongs, and they are designed specifically to grip a beaker nice and securely. See how they're curved? That lets you lift and move a hot beaker without any risk of spilling it, or even worse, dropping it. And just like the beaker has its tongs, the test tube has its own special tool. This is a test tube clamp. It does the same basic job. It lets you hold a single test tube, which is essential if you're heating it or you just need to keep it steady while a reaction is happening. And there you have it. From the ring stand that holds it all together, to the balances and cylinders for perfect measurements, to the beakers and test tubes where the magic actually happens, and the tongs that let you handle it all safely, you've just met your core lab toolkit. So that's a quick look at the absolute essential tools of a chemistry lab. Every single piece has its own specific job, and learning how to use them is the very first step toward making your own incredible discoveries. So now that you know the tools, what will you discover?